because there's some percentage of people, maybe even that are listening, that have this thing where, they might have an addiction problem. So I definitely want to just acknowledge that that's a real thing. It's not everybody. I'm not like anti-drugs or anti-alcohol or anything like that. But for some people like me, it was a solution to, again, going back to mindset. Like, I had a really hard time on how I reacted to life. Life just hit me really hard. And that doesn't mean that life was harder for me. What I'm saying is how I internalized what regular life was happening hit me hard, right? So I'm not a victim or anything like that. And my solution to that was to get loaded one way or the other. I just thought, man, if I could just be loaded all the time, then that would be great. I felt like I functioned better. I was just a better person, all the things. By the way, that was all an illusion. It was all internal, right? It wasn't actually true. In other words, people did not experience me as a better person because I was loaded. It was just my interpretation. So, and to be honest, I was doing that and it worked until it didn't work. And for me, when the day that it didn't work, I was super fortunate that I was able to connect with some people that had already been in my experience, and in terms of of having been in addiction and then also come out of it, and they helped me. And so it was not me picking myself up by my bootstraps. It was me availing myself to other people who had more experience than me and their willingness to help me. In fact, what I found out later was for them to keep what they had in terms of their solution to their recovery, they had to give it away to other people. And that premise, that idea has stuck with me in everything else that I've done. So as I've had other successes, wherever that may be, in business, personal development, whatever it is, it's really important for me to always be going to the person behind me going, come on, come with me, and almost in a selfish way. I get so much out of helping other people and doing and having that commitment to, helping them see, helping them get to see that you're not stuck wherever you are, whether it's business, personal development, drug addiction, whatever it is. Like, there is that place where you can and have a solution. So those guys, that's what happened for me. And then there was some process within that where I had to do stuff that was not in my comfort zone. I had to learn how to, be willing to be open-minded to ideas. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like a good idea, only to find out that not only was it a good idea, but it was essential for me to get to the next place where I wanted to be, whether that was in recovery or mindset or whatever it was. So,
yeah, there's a lot of, I do some coaching, and the more I've done, the more I realize what you're describing. Like, it sometimes feels like a selfish endeavor because it's so powerful to watch someone grow or change or come out of their situation or whatever. And it's funny because I've begun to focus a lot of my energy on learning how to become better at that. So what you do is you watch other coaches, and your social media starts to there's probably an algorithm that pushes all that stuff towards me, right? So there's a few coaches that I really like, and it's funny how there's common threads. And one of them is all of the growth happens outside your comfort zone, or let's say the majority, right?
Sure.
Anytime that you're uncomfortable, that's when growth is happening. So I'd love to hear you say that. It's so hard to do that though. It's so hard to be here's an example is let's say you're in a W-2 job and you hate it. I really want to get out of this. I want to do something different. Most people just can't, right? They just can't leave that comfort. And my friends call it the golden handcuffs or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah,
you have this steady income to step away or to start the side gig or whatever. It's just so hard to do. I don't want to compare that at all to what you went through because those are two totally different things. But I love kind of the message of, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's where the major growth happens.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear more about your story in regards to that.
Yeah, I think it's totally okay to compare that because it's just another version of exactly what you're describing. And, there's this idea of the working edge. Have you ever heard that term before? So an emotional working edge is that place that you're comfortable going up to, but not beyond. Right. And so the working edge is where the discomfort lies, whether that's in talking to new people, going from a W-2 job to, being a 1099 guy and being on your own, or in personal relationships, like we all have these working edges. They're kind of these invisible, like it's almost like one of those electronic dog collars, where they have the perimeter.
Yeah.
It's almost like that, where, you butt up against it, but you go, beyond this point, it's not comfortable. Therefore, I'm not going to go any further. And the more you can jump into that working edge, that is where the good stuff happens. I mean, if the dog only knew that all he had to do is get beyond that perimeter, and then the collar wouldn't be hitting him anymore, and he would have this huge freedom. By the way, I'm not sure if that's totally accurate. I don't know how the dog collar thing works, but let's
I don't
assume
either, but I like the analogy. So let's just say,
Yeah.
and even if, let's just say there's like an invisible line, they get past that, it's pure freedom.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden they're out in the fields, they're doing whatever, they can sniff every hydrant that they want. Like the amount of freedom that exists beyond that working edge is incredible. And so going back to what we were just talking about, the idea of, from a coaching standpoint, I know you've experienced this, when you coach somebody beyond any working edge and they all of a sudden have this new world that they get to explore, it is super powerful to watch them, to experience that. It's almost addictive in itself.
Well, here's what's perfect about this analogy too, is for that dog to get through that, there is a zap.
Yes, and there is. That's right.
So that's why this analogy is perfect, because there is some so I can name a few times in my life. Again, I don't want to compare when I went beyond my comfort zone extremely, right? We bought our first sixplex and it was $1 million purchase.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, we do syndication, so $1 million wouldn't even be a big enough deal, honestly, for us. But at the time, I remember laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, like, what am I doing? I'm about to borrow $965,000. I'm insane. And just laying awake. And I asked all of my mentors and friends and people I trust, and everyone's like, yeah, sounds like a good deal. And I was like, I need someone to tell me no,
Yeah.
But then after that moment, that purchase honestly led to my, where I am now, because had I never done that and so it's basically like the loss of sleep for a few nights. And this scare led to so many things. So I can point to sometimes one thing, right? And again, everyone's discomfort zone. I know how I sound right now. I was like, I was able to buy this $1 million place. That's so I'm so grateful for those things. But it's all the same. Once you jump past that comfort zone, a lot of times you go, like I met with a couple just last night. They're buying their first home. They're scared to death. So they asked if I would come have coffee with them and say, they basically wanted to hear what I had heard. It's totally okay, right? Like it's okay to buy this house and you're doing the right thing. And if it's within your budget. So anyway, I didn't mean to kind of overtake what you were saying, but I do love what you're saying is got to get past that comfort zone.
Well, and you know what, you're bringing up another really good point around this comfort zone thing is the conversation that's going on in our head, right? You sitting there, staying up at night, worrying about it. Like, who's that conversation with?
I love that question.
Right?
I have no idea. Right.
Yeah. And it's like the things that we, our brains are designed not to thrive. Our brains are designed to survive. And so survival means minimal, keep everything close, don't take risks. That's survival. And for us to take those super powerful noggins that we have and turn them into thriving machines, we have to be purposeful about it. Right? We cannot just let it be on autopilot, because autopilot leaves us to staying up in the middle of the night going, what the hell are we doing? This is crazy. We shouldn't have done this. What are you thinking? Like, who is that guy or gal that's in your head telling you these things, right? Now, on the other hand, and this is why I love going back to my experience at the very beginning when I reached out for help, was I need the outside voices. I need the people that have been where I have been and are no longer there. And they have, just like you are for your investors, it's like, oh, no, I get it. I get that you're worried. I was that way too, but I did it and now it's great. And now that's not even a big deal. How valuable is that voice, right, to the guy who was where you were?